The first crypto president is about to be sworn in for the United States of America. And we're going to be going over what prior inauguration dates have looked like for U.S. presidents, as well as several statistical setups that we have been looking at for the past couple of weeks that are coming to fruition and giving us a bit of forward guidance for those statistical setups as to what to expect on these next few weeks, coming from there. I should also state that in yesterday's video and the day prior, we were saying that, hey, look, things are generally good here for Bitcoin, but do understand that coming into an event like this on an inauguration day around basically all-time highs, I do want to have just a little bit of warning of course, volatility. We have seen already a pretty nasty move here, but it does seem to also be forming that next major higher low, which is what we were looking for in the short term for Bitcoin, as Bitcoin did play out a very quick move from about 106 all the way down to below $100,000. So yeah, if you're going to be bullish, that would be your higher low. Anyways, let's go now into the annals of history for the Bitcoins here. And let's look at, what those past inauguration dates have been. So obviously Bitcoin hasn't been around for forever. And the first one is actually going all the way back to January of 2013. You can see that was right here. The day was green. And yes, volatility did certainly occur afterwards, throughout the rest of the week, but it was generally up and to the right, and all downside moves were opportunities. In fact, this one, obviously just had a screaming move to the upside over the course of the next how many days? Yeah, this was 80 days, about 80 days or so. Moving on to the next one, which was actually the previous time that Trump was elected. Well, let's see what we got over here. This one also rather similar, I would say, in the sense that, in the short term, weekly, or within that following week, you did see a little bit of up, a little bit of down, but ultimately all downside moves were higher lows. And well, I did actually get another retest a couple months later in March, but again, generally up and to the right, and especially from the actual inauguration date to the next major high, that was about 50 days of just general upside. I mean, the whole thing was general upside, but 50 days without any major corrections. And then, of course, the most recent one was from 2021. And if I can find it right here, this one actually did dump the day after. It literally just the day after. But again, that dump was an opportunity. So, putting two and two together and kind of looking at Bitcoin right here, I mean, still on a day like today, you can get some pretty nasty vol. I mean, obviously it's fucking volatile. We've seen Bitcoin do a $10,000 move already today, and the day hasn't even begun. It's not even halfway over at this point. It's fucking insane, man. Absolutely fucking insane. But just be aware of kind of where the general trajectory is, and then where those higher lows might be coming in around. And of course, on the daily right here, that $100,000 number is a number that we spoke about in yesterday's video as an area of interest for a higher low. I'd be looking at it as well as working off of that higher low, if that indeed is going to be the is going to be, I guess, the rally. Then this is it. That you're looking at it right now. Of course, we do want to see the daily close, as well as the 5-day, which both closed today, but anywhere above yesterday's high at 106.5. Yeah, 106,300 bucks. Sorry, 106. Did I say that right? 106,300. $106,300 price per Bitcoin. As long as Bitcoin closes above there, you will have a daily bullish engulfing dildo, and you will also have a 10-day bullish engulfing dildo here as well. So, that would be the next sort of, I guess, important things to be looking for in the short term. Now, before we get into the rest of this analysis, I should once again state that if you find this content valuable or in some way meaningful, maybe consider liking and subscribing so you can get these videos each and every day if that's relevant to your interests. And then also, I've been getting a lot of questions. We'll get to the actual analysis in a second, but I've been getting a lot of questions about the Trump meme coin and everything. Look, I'm not a fucking meme coin guy. I'm not going to get into the Trump stuff. I'm not but not because I hate him, not because I love him, but because I that's not my game. That's not what I play. But as far as my opinion as to whether it's good or bad for the market, This might be a mid-curve assessment, but I think it's very short-sighted. The reason being because pretty much every shitcoin, especially meme coins, do not survive over the long term. And for the ones that do, like Doggy Coin, for example, even then, they have tremendously nasty pullbacks, throughout its life cycles. We're talking like down 90%. Yeah, it does recover later, but I mean, that's a long time and a lot of people getting wrecked in between there. So my point is that I think Trump might have made a strategic error here because a lot of people are going to make a lot of money on this, but more people are probably going to lose money, over the long term, I suppose. And that's just going to look, if you want to fuck with people, fuck with their money. That's where they start to get really, really pissed off. I mean, obviously, like I would be pissed off too. But that's also why I'm not going to play something like that. Anyway, and then Melania also created, was like, okay, all right, I guess all bets are off now. Anyways, let's get into some actual statistical setups. Short term here, not the daily time frame, but the Monday strategy, which is a very, very simple strategy where we open up a long on 00 UTC Monday open and then close that long at 10 a.m. UTC on Tuesday. If you would have done that throughout the past a few years here, these would have been your stats. If we can actually extrapolate that for the past 10 years, then these would be your stats, which is, I already know the answer, but it's going to be better. So, very simple strategy. Of course, yes, if you have half of a brain, you can figure out several different ways to optimize something like this. But again, gives you, an idea of things with a positive equity curve over time. What we're interested in here is the average winning trade return, which is about 3.5%. The average losing trade losing about 3%, but I think at this point, the upside more likely, if that's not obvious enough. This one did fire off, however, at not just under $100,000. So 3% up, actually only puts, or 3.5% up puts Bitcoin at about 103,300. So this is very likely to be an outsized return day. When do you have outsized return days? During major potential breakouts or breakdowns. So I would say, if Bitcoin especially is closing today above 106 or in change, it's just, do you need any further confirmations as to where this asset, the direction that this asset is going? But even now that I recognize the last 1, 2, 3 of these setups has worked out. I'm sure this one seems to be on its way to working out as well, but it always does make me a little bit on edge when I see a lot of them working out in a row. But hey, they do come in bunches a lot of the time. Anyways, moving on from there, I did want to also revisit one of the major things on the weekly time frame here that was kind of governing our idea for a potential higher low, and that is that red 5 exponential moving average. As long as Bitcoin's above it, generally going to be bullish and generally in trendy motion. It reclaimed it on yesterday night's closure. And this week it immediately dumps down to reconnect. And now, having a very nice move to the upside intraday here. In fact, I think even the monthly is nearly a bullish engulfing dildo. It was for a moment. But I think even just the fact that it even traded above last month's high is already kind of a confirming factor. But moving on from there, I do want to get into, let me just reference my notes again. Yes, let's go over here. Let's look at the RSI EMA setup. This one, again, a 2-day time frame setup. Very, 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 very simple strategy here. Again, you can figure out many ways to optimize this, but I just want to show a very simple strategy so that people can follow through with it and then also get an idea of like what these things look like. But the 2-day RSI closing above the exponential moving average that I have on here, that opens a long, and when the RSI closes below, that closes the long. If you would have done that, I believe throughout the full history of Bitcoin, these would have been your stats. Obviously, the early years had significantly outsized returns. So if we do get rid of that and only go to the last 10 years of history, let's see what those stats kind of align with and see what sort of dates projected we can get from that, as well as returns that we can kind of expect on average. And again, these setups are more likely to fail than work out, but because it does have about a 33.5% strike rate. But when we go into the data right here, let me remove my face for a moment because this is actually important. Hey, damn it. Where's my stupid face? There we go. All right, found it. Okay, so the average amount of bars in losing trades is 3. The average amount of bars in winning trades is 12. So the longer that this setup goes on without hitting the failure conditions, which right now it's like pretty far away from, to be fair, the more and more likely it is going to be a winning trade. And on average, we see this one returning 21.5% for those winning trades. And in the event of a losing trade, losing about 369. So looking at it here, we already have the entry. We spoke about this last week. What does 20% to the upside look like? 20% to the upside looks like $120,000 and change. And again, the sort of timing from this, well, is 12 bars. So 12 bars puts us where? That puts us in the first week or at the end of the first week of February. So, perhaps somewhere around there, if that does play out. Of course, we do, there is going to be variance in these numbers, obviously, but it gives us some sort of a guide at least to be going off of. And of course, the 2-day time frame also just playing out this hidden bullish evidence. I think maybe even on the 3-day as well. Yeah, the 3-day also has the same thing. And the 3-day also fired off a similar signal here. In fact, this one perhaps a little bit more powerful, I would expect, being that it is a higher time frame and actually a higher hit rate as well, which is very interesting. Anyways, I won't go over this one. Obviously you can kind of guess the setup from there. But moving on, I do want to get into the big one that we speak about only a handful of times throughout the year on this channel, because it only happens when I say a handful, I mean like 3 at most 4 times a year, but probably closer to 2.5 to 3, I would say. And it's these 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum setups. Now, we've seen 5-day volatility represented by BBWP go all the way into a full-on contraction phase earlier this month in January, where it got down to just over 1 percentile, meaning that we were looking at some of the lowest volatility levels that we've seen in a very, very long time for Bitcoin, really only comparable to what we saw of April, May, and June consolidation of last year. Anyways, when you see things get this low for volatility, you should always be thinking that expansion is guaranteed at some point. And when expansion does occur, it's usually going to be an equal but opposite reaction to the contraction phase. So the lower that it gets, the more explosive you can kind of expect the move to be. And this is a very interesting one to me because we are seeing a little bit of expansion right now. Of course, this one, it can take its time. How many times have we seen these setups where, they get an initial bust up and then they base for a long time and then they get the real big move? That actually was, I think, literally the last one, right? Yeah, this was literally the last one right here. But it is pointed up right now, so there is potential for actual, expansion. And while I wouldn't confirm it just yet, if we do see 5-day BBWP, let's say above about 20 percentile, okay, very likely expansion is underway. And then the direction of the 5-day stochastic oscillator has had a very high correlation to the major direction of trend for Bitcoin. In this case, we're going to see this one officially cross back onto the upside, holding within the bullish control zone as long as Bitcoin closed today above $103,000. Right now, trading more than $5,000 above that number. So, looking good. And this one closes today, by the way. The 5-day closes today in 15 hours, 19 minutes, and 26 seconds and counting. So if we do see expansion confirmed, which again, it's a little bit further away, but just kind of give us a more long-term look now, we can reference this setup here, which again, we speak about this like 2 or 3 times a year. And every time that we've seen it in the upside direction with the 5-day stochastic oscillator in the upside direction, it's actually always followed through in that direction. I don't expect this to always have a 100% hit rate, but it is interesting that it has throughout the full history of Bitcoin. And if you've been on this channel, even for the past year, you've seen several of these work out, obviously to the upside. There's been, there's been a few big ones in the past couple of years here. Anyways, the reason why this one is also of interest is because it gives us, a date for this. On average, we see the next major high upon this setup confirming about a little over a month after the setup confirms. And the average return and median return actually very close to each other at around just under 42%. Which is fucking tremendous, especially with a standard deviation of 11. So you're kind of looking at a first standard deviation between about 30 to 52, 53 percent, which is fucking humongous. So, very likely that we see at least a 30% move if it is confirmed, which, looks like it probably does. But that would be 30% from the closure of the confirmation. And so 30% up, again, I'm going to assume here that it actually does confirm expansion today. It has not as of right now, but let's just say it does. At that point, 30% up, which would be on the lower end of kind of the expected returns for this, would be $141,000 price per Bitcoin. And again, that would put us a little over a month out. So, very end of February is kind of where I'd be looking for. And if it goes for the average, well, that's 40%. Then that puts you at 152,000. And of course, if it goes for the top end of the first standard deviation, which I do think is less likely, like much less likely, but just for argument's sake, that gives us 165,000 bucks. And those are essentially my major targets for this cycle. I do think that Bitcoin will top out at one of those major targets. And I especially, assuming that the breakout does get confirmed today, assuming that everything that we've spoken about today gets confirmed, I really do think that this market tops out. It's extremely likely before the end of the first half and maybe even around the end of the first quarter. Again, I'm 100% open to being wrong about this because this really seems to piss a lot of people off in the comments. Look, it's okay to have a different opinion. You don't have to think the same things as me. It's all good. I'm just putting stuff out here based off statistics that I actually do look at, but at the end of the day, you can do whatever the fuck you want. If my opinion does not drive the market, the market drives the market, and my opinion needs to be able to, model that. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, just relax. You can see that I've already worked out these arguments in my head with these fucking comments, like insane, man. Anyways, again, it's okay to have a different opinion. It's okay. Anyways, last thing here that I'll leave you with, I think it's good to kind of check in on the quantum wave bands. Again, this is a scalping strategy. It's not going to be for trending, although we're working on, and we seem to have actually a decent trending strategy now. That will very likely add to this package. But as it stands, you can see the last week, it's been actually quite active on the hourly for Bitcoin. And these are small scalps, but they are profitable scalps. And I think a lot of people asked about this too, which is just, of course, the equity returns over this would be the past couple of years. Of course, we can go further back than that as well, but I think you get the idea. Anyways, that is where I will end today's video. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. I guess one last thing, of course, I've been shilling it a little bit more recently, but the Blofin link is again live in the description below. If you want 15% off of your trading fees, basically, it's 15% cash back in your account, which works out to essentially the same thing on a no KYC exchange, which I know a lot of people are very interested in. So that's why I was interested in to get a nice discount for working with them. Yeah, it's there for you, of course. Don't get into trading if you're not super serious about it. You're just gonna fucking lose a shit ton of money. But if you are serious about it, if you are a career trader, well, any percent off of your trading fees is more money in your pocket. So I'll leave things on that note. Oh, and you also get to log it in for the lifetime of your account. Always forget that. Anyways, I'll leave it on that note. Enough shilling for one day. Enjoy your Trump coins. Who knows what the fuck happens with this? The market is crazy right now. Do not underestimate how crazy the market can get during times like this. And with the monthly bullish engulfing, like with 11 or 10 days left to go, I mean, that's quite convincing. But one thing's on that note, we'll come back at it tomorrow with another live stream. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Tuesday.